This is Grant McGaw, your host of Follow the Brand. We have a special guest. He's a personal friend of mine, Mr. Naresh Samlal. He has been in the South Florida market on the scene from an IT perspective, from an entrepreneurial perspective. You're going to listen to him as he talks about his portfolio of different endeavors that he's been involved in. I invited him to this show because I believe he has an enormous personal brand that I have had the opportunity to witness, to actually, I would say, articulate in word when we did I think it was 3 years ago or so, did a private article. And I felt what he was doing in his role as a AVP at VITAS, and I'll let him talk about that a little bit more, was very, very substantial. And he walked me through his journey from coming from Trinidad to the US and finding his passion in the IT realm. And then I began to learn more and more about him. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Naresh Samlal.
Grant, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share, to support your podcast and your endeavors. I always, figured I always know you would do some really cool things and that we would work together in multiple capacities, which we have so far over the last recent years, right? We've done a couple of things together. And so, I consider you like the mayor in town. Everybody knows Grant. He's always at events. He's he's on the who's list of everyone. So great connector, great networker, and good people like to keep good people around. And so the fact that you're in everyone's company, I want to stay close to you as well.
Right? Oh, likewise. Birds of a feather flock together, right? Right. So tell the audience, tell them a little bit more that you can't get out of just reading an article or just kind of listening to a bio. Let's hear a little bit more about you and your personal brand.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to say that, your podcast is, it touches on something that's very, very important to me. And I've developed this specifically my entire working life. And so when you talk about personal brand, it is something that I'm very passionate about. I've put a lot of time and energy. I've studied it. I'm by no means I've arrived. If anything, we're always going to be a student of how we get better tomorrow and be better than we were yesterday. But personal branding is something that's become really important to me. It's very exciting. And when you identify and you recognize what it is, what it can do for you, and how to fertilize it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And
agreed.
In my example, we'll talk a little bit about some of these things today, but you overcome odds. And that's one of the coolest things for me is it's a tool that we all have available to us if we can leverage it properly to overcome odds, right? And so we'll talk about some of those things today, but personal branding is one of my favorite topics. I absolutely love it. You can't stop me from talking about it. No matter whatever this podcast would have been about, we would have been talking about that anyway. So good thing we're talking, good thing that's where you center your content around, because it's one of my favorite topics. So thank you so much again.
No, without question. Now I'm curious because you bring up a great topic, a great point, meaning that you and your professional career, as you've spanned over these last decades, you would say that you have been a professional, and then you picked up on personal branding probably at an early age. And I want to hear about that. Like what intrigued you? What turned that button on for you?
Yeah. So great question. I wish I can tell you there was a light switch that went off for me, and it might have been, I just can't remember it right now. But what I can tell you is that it's never one thing, at least in my case. It was not a one and done. It was one of those things where I had very specific goals, and we hear about, it's underrated. People think it's tacky. They downplay it, but creating goals is a real thing. Using, the SMART methodology is something that, is tried and true. And so, when I learned at a really early age to apply, goal setting and then supplying action to achieve those goals, I didn't have some of the components that were very conventional. So, for example, I didn't go to college. I don't have a college education, right? And so, when I right out of high school, I knew then that I wanted to be in technology. I did not know then that my path was destined to be an executive in technology. It was, I wanted to fix computers. I wanted to be around computers. I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to be, as what we will term today, I wanted to be a hardware guy, a desktop support guy. Like that was fun for me. That was intriguing, largely because I knew then also that if you want to be in technology, you're going to have to evolve. You're not going to be, you're not going to be static. And it's probably not fair for me to do this, but if you look at um, other verticals, like, I hate to do this, but like accounting or something like that. Yes, I'm sure there's evolution, there's rule changes, there's different things they have to keep up with, but technology changes from one day to the next, right?
Really?
And
Yes.
early on in technology, I learned that you needed to be current at all times, and that is something that if you rested on your laurels and you did not push yourselves to stay at the cutting edge and stay with the bleeding edge, you were going to be irrelevant real quick. And that early on attracted me. That was something that I want, because I wanted to continuously be hungry. And so, getting exposed to technology at that time made a lot of sense for me. I felt then it fit me, really well. And I decided to pursue, my certifications and working in a computer store. And soon after that, I got into more enterprise computing and so forth. And fast forward to today, been through a lot of companies in South Florida, in a hardware support, capacity in various roles. But I've never looked back since then. And technology today is very much a part of my makeup, part very much of the fabric of who I am. Right? It's been a vehicle for me to flourish in ways that I've grown, quite a bit in over the years. So, um, I really enjoy it. People know me, in that particular space. I have family members that still call me to fix their computers. I'm like, dude, it's been a while.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm sitting there thinking, like, I see Naresh, he's like maybe 20 years old and he's tinkering around with computers. And then he's the IT guy. You are the family fixer when it comes to everything data related.
I used to be. I used to be. I still get asked for opinions when buying a laptop, or I'm like, I ask other people for that today.
You've
um,
evolved.
I've evolved, and so yeah, so that's where exactly where it's going is that just like the industry, I was attracted to the industry because the industry kept moving, but what that also did for me was it put me in a place where I had to keep moving as well. I had to grow and develop because as I got exposed to certain things, I wanted more and I wanted more and I wanted more. So, coming out of high school, I wanted to fix computers. Fixing computers, I wanted to work in a corporate environment. Working in a corporate environment, well, wait, I could do that. I could do that. Become, system administrator, what have you, IT manager, and you kind of keep moving with a certain momentum. And in order to do that, it's not just, well, to be perfectly honest, I kind of stopped getting certifications after a while, really early on, because then I realized um, I didn't want to be the most technical person. I wanted to be the person that people can depend on, that was reliable, that was going to get the job done, and that somebody can count on in technology. And so I started to develop those skills, right? And that was great for a while. And then I realized, wait a minute, I actually want to do that for other people as well. And that's when I, turned a corner and started going into IT management and leading people. And ever since I've done that skill, that sector within technology, and has really been about people management, people development, and those types of things. That's the kind of stuff that today really drives me and really tickles me. That's the stuff that really is fun for me, to help folks that are going through that path, trying to navigate those challenges that I've already done in my own ways, right, wrong, or indifferent. I've done it. And I love telling my story. I love sharing. I love seeing other people take advantage of the mistakes I made and accelerate their future, right? And accelerate the path that I once, did the hard way in a lot of ways, because
You've done it. And what I'm hearing is that you've evolved from just the technical aspects, the hands-on, and you got the opportunity to step back and look at it from the human aspect, the people aspect.
yep.
And what does that look like? And then I believe you also had that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And you became that go-to person. If I remember right, you were like, people would line up to get to utilize your services as a business because of the brand that you had created.
Right.
Now we're not talking about just marketing, just putting it out there. People, you were known in the industry as the best, and you created that, correct?
So, I mean, it's one of those things where when you center your focus on doing the right thing by people, good things follow, right? And so there was, there was a change in mindset for me when I actually, right before I entered management roles. And so um, when I changed, I started to see the big picture, and it changed, my mindset changed and my perspective changed. I started seeing people differently, and I started seeing I started appreciating the dependency on people to perform for you to be successful as a manager and as a leader, right? And that was a whole new world that opened up for me, and it was extremely exciting because one of the most fulfilling things, and I've happened to, experience this a bunch of times, is to see people that you've had influence on grow, develop, flourish, and surpass you in a lot of ways. And it's really rewarding. And that's, quite frankly, it's addicting. It's
Like
really addicting.
watching your kids grow up, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
And
so
yeah,
that's something that you do it once, you see it, you even get a taste of it. And I'm completely hooked on that. So, fast forward to where I am today, I love, helping people be their best self. Right. And I say that because that is how I'm approaching my life today, is how do I become my best self? And at first, I believe, starts with identifying what you're good at and what you're not good at.
right.
Right. Understanding, not living life casually, but living life with a purpose, and understanding what value can I add? Right. And that could be to your job. It could be to your family. It could be to your loved ones. It could be to strangers. But really understanding, hey, what is my purpose here? What am I good at? Right.
Right.
If I'm not good at something, it doesn't mean that that's not my purpose, but really you got to know where you are so you can understand where you need to go. Is that fair?
Oh, and that's very fair. And I think as people evolve over time, they go through different reiterations of understanding who they are.
Right.
And your brand will change.
Absolutely.
And it should change every 3, 5, 7, 10 years. You should see some stark changes in how you're approaching your life and how you view yourself, because you're unfolding. I
Yep.
believe there's natural unfoldment, and you're allowing that to happen.
And the thing is, yes, we go through these phases. It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't even realize they're moving through phases, right? Um, and one of the benefits of recognizing and living in that moment, and realizing exactly where you are, is knowing how to prioritize things where you spend your time. And I say that as it relates to how you develop, right? So if I know that, I'm not really great with confrontation, for example, then you have to know, if where you want to go, do I need to be better at that? Probably, right? Um, and that's for me. But if where you want to go does, that's not something that's going to be quite important, whatever it is that's important, you put your time, your energy, and you develop those skill sets. That doesn't mean ignore your weaknesses by any means, but you really you prioritize the things you want to spend your time on to develop yourself. And so coming back to personal branding, it started to unfold for me as to what is important to me, what is my passion, when I pull apart everything,
Mhm.
what is left as the in its purest form, what is my passion? And for
Yes.
me, it was people and developing people. It wasn't technology, was a vehicle, right?
Right.
My ventures, my personal ventures was a vehicle to do that. At its core, it was bringing out the best in people, helping them realize their potential through whatever vehicle that is. And for me, when I realized that, I started now to start really focusing on developing that skill set in a more formal manner.
You
So,
doubled down. You doubled down.
well, absolutely, right. And so that's
Yeah.
how, listen, if I want to, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be the best at it. I'm going to be the best that I can be at it, right? And that does not happen by accident. You don't stumble upon that. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort on your part, and it has to be conscious. It has to be deliberate. It can't be casual. It can't be, when I have time. No, if you want to make something of yourself, it has to be deliberate effort that you put into it. You have to go get it.
Yeah.
It's not going to just fall into your lap. I know people talk about luck and, and all these different scenarios that, makes you wonder how them and not me. My philosophy is that at some point in time, you did something you may not know, you may not remember, you may not even have identified what you did, but everything that you did led up to where you are today.
Absolutely. Without
Good.
question. How did you get it in this time, in this space, in this
Exactly.
scenario,
Right.
and all the other moving parts and all the people? Because if I wasn't, I look at how I met you. I remember. Matter of fact, it was at a hymns event, and I invited you to a golf outing, and you came out, and we just happened to be in the same golf
Group. Yep.
group cart, whatnot. You, me, and Bill Waddell.
Yep.
And we spent the whole day, and that was called serendipitous,
Right.
right? But it got me a great opportunity to know you as a person.
Yep.
But there was a lot of things, like you said, was I intentional? And I would say yes, because in my world, I'm an IT sales professional.
Right.
Right. That's my day job.
Right.
Right. And my job is to know, who are the people that can best utilize the services that I am providing.
Right.
Right. And I don't want to, you're the type of person in your position, you're going to get sales pitch after sales pitch after sales pitch. How do you differentiate yourself? So for me, I just couldn't all right, let me send Naresh about 100 emails, and then he'll probably know my name, if he hasn't blocked me completely. So I didn't feel that was going to be effective for me at all. I knew I had to know you on a personal level.
Right.
And that becomes the bridge to have meaningful conversation. Let's have meaningful conversation. If things are working and they're working, they're. But the last thing I want to do is to bring to you things that are just a waste of time. Right? That's not going to work. Like, we have a good conversation, like, Grant, I have this problem. This is what I'm struggling with. What's in your bag of tricks? Is this something that's in your world? If it's not in your world, can you bring me somebody that can help? And that's how you create value, right? Yep. And but that was intentional. Getting back to what we were just talking about, but personal branding. Now, Grant McGaw, as opposed just to my company or my product, the person. Right. The person is very valuable. Yep. Right.
And that's what matters most at the end of the day, is the relationship.
Correct.
Right. But you set out with you set out on a path with a plan to develop a relationship. And that activity is really rinse and repeat for, everything. You have to know where you want to go. You have to know with a level of clarity what you want the end result or the goal to be. Right.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it is precise or it has to be. It's a guide. It is to get you directionally in the place that you want to be. And so just like golf, right? We want to hit
Right.
it in the direction of the hole. Not everybody's capable at hitting it at that blade of grass necessarily, right? But directionally, you're going to go in that, you're going to head that way. And so how do you make that a reality is the plan that you come up with, and you articulated, you know, the mechanism you employed to deliver on that. And that is no different than, you know, how you want to build your personal brand, right?
Yeah.
But it really, before you even get there, is you got to know where you're at.
Correct.
You have to have a real talk to yourself, a real, you know, objective view of who you are, what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, right?
SWOT
And
analysis,
yeah,
a real SWOT
a
analysis.
real, it's
Yeah.
personal. It's
Yeah.
personal. And if you're strong in everything, you probably need outside help, right? You probably need,
Superhuman, right? Yeah.
and so that's, for me, that's been the benefit of mentors, right? That's also something not to be taken lightly, because a fresh pair of eyes from an outside perspective will usually enlighten you with a level of truth, right?
Yes.
And it's to find your blind spots. And so, you know, I have, and I had many mentors. You know, I remember reaching out to um, a handful of people that had CIOs, for example, that had that were in places that I at the time aspired to be,
Okay.
right? And
Yep.
so now here's the difference. Here's a secret I'm going to give to folks that are listening today. Grant, as a salesperson, you would not have the level of success with connecting with that person as I did by asking for mentorship.
Right.
It's
Of
a
course.
whole different, it's immediate, it is humbling to that person. One of the most powerful things you can do is ask someone for mentorship, because you are essentially putting yourself in a position where you will get the absolute best out of that person, because not very many people will get asked that. Can you guide my life, is what you're asking for, right?
True.
And
Yeah.
mentors take that extremely seriously. Extremely seriously. They will give you the best that they have to offer. It may not be the best you can get, but you're going to get the best out of them.
Let me ask you this.
Yep.
Because I've known people that have gone for, because there's like three different worlds to that, right? There's advocates, somebody who's advocating for you for advancement. There are mentors, as you said, that's almost a one-on-one coaching experience over time. And then there are sponsors, and they're usually outside of the day-to-day. They're outside of your organization usually, but they're a good sponsor. They could be internal to the organization as well. It's just a matter of timing, right? So I think that in the audience, and I've heard this a lot of times, the approach. How did you approach that person? Did you just talk to them? Did you already have an established relationship? You know, how did that take place?
Almost never had an established relationship. And so first things first is I had to change my mindset. One, of being, you know, an egotistical hotshot at a young age that was just, you know, the man, to somebody that I had to humble myself, remove my ego, and say, you know, cold contact, walk up in a meeting, whatever, right? And network, like, just put myself out there, right? Be very vulnerable, and say, listen, my name is Naresh Samlal. This is who I am. Explain my background, a little bit about myself in just 2 minutes. You know, I see you as this person. You've, you know, from what I can tell, you've taken a path that is really attractive to me. I want to pursue a path like that. Would you consider mentoring me?
Wow. Yeah.
You got to do it, right?
Put it out there. Just, yeah.
It takes a lot of vulnerability, because in that moment, see, here's the thing though. Here's what.
Now, let me ask you this. Were you intentional? Like, did you go to this seminar? You knew this person was going to be there. You had rehearsed your elevator pitch. I mean, what was that preparation like?
I'm a horrible planner. I never studied in school, so I'm not the guy that prepared or I wing everything. Um, I might be slightly talented in that sense to get away with it, but I did not plan. I didn't. No, I didn't know. But here's what I did do. I knew I needed to be in places where those people potentially could be. I did that much, right? So if there was a CIO event, for example, um, okay, I'm gonna go. I knew no one, um, but I'm gonna go. And so what I did over time was consciously work on building my network, and
Right.
it didn't always mean going external. I would leverage my internal network first to then build out, but then I would use that as a gateway to get out, right? And meet people, and not every time I went up right away, right? Maybe in that particular event, for example, maybe I just couldn't find the right time or the right the right moment of privacy to make that conversation effective, and I would let it be, and I would come back, regroup, and I reach out, shoot an email out, shoot a LinkedIn message out,
Right.
but I was very calculated. I was not going to shortcut that. It had to be high quality. It had to be personal. It had to be genuine. I was not going to water down the quality of that delivery and that message, because it needed to be heartfelt, and that was really key.
Sure. Yeah.
It couldn't have been spam. It had to be from you had to feel the emotion coming from me, and because I was putting myself in that place to give you emotionally where I'm coming from.
Correct.
I really look up to you. There's things that that I really would like to know, because I would like to know how I navigate the waters, that maybe you can give me a couple of pointers that could help me do it a little bit differently, right? And that was really my approach. Just I did not
This
hesitate.
person was not even in your organization. They were outside of your company, or
I'm talking about CIOs in most cases that I had no business talking to, meeting, running into, so far away from me, in a socioeconomic sense, that
right.
I should not have been able to connect with them. And I'm very, very fortunate today to call these people friends and part of my network.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome story.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty cool. But you know what? It also it also became kind of fun, because I learned through that exercise of gaining mentors. That exercise I just described for you helped me realize a new muscle that I didn't realize I had before, and I started leveraging that in different ways. Right? I started, and in a lot of ways, Grant, you would relate to that, because you've got to have some of that in a sales capacity. When you're in a sales role,
Absolutely.
you got to have, you got to be ready for rejection. You got to put yourself out there, be vulnerable. You got to you got to just step out of your comfort zone. And for me, it was safe, because I felt like I had control of that situation, and it was personal. It was one-on-one. I'm not standing in front of 15,000 people on a stage asking somebody for mentorship, where I expose
Right.
myself so much. Right.
Right. Right.
Here's the other thing that I learned throughout that, is that person that you're asking, that is such a privilege to that person, that if you do it very thoughtfully, with the right emotion, and you're genuine, your rate of success is very, very high.
Well, you just said it, and I want the audience to really hone in on that. You have to be so genuine.
Yep. Can't be fake.
No, you have to come and you have to have absolute confidence, because a person is not going to just pour into you their time if you're not ready. And that's the thing, you need to do that self-assessment that you talked about earlier. If you're going to, go to an accomplished professional, someone who's very successful, you want to, walk in those footsteps or gain some knowledge in that world, you got to be ready.
Yep.
You got to be ready. And then when you are ready and you are confident, they will take you under their wing,
Right.
and pull back some of their the magic they have behind their curtain.
Yep.
And I'm sure that they look upon you even probably right now, like, wow, look at you grow. Look at you. You're doing some amazing things.
Yep. And you know what? It's not lost on me that, I had pretty good guidance from real world, you know, um, leaders in that sense, right? And so um, you've got to be, and the point you made of being prepared, you have to be prepared to know. You don't have to know everything, but you can't go into that situation not knowing where you're at. That's really key, because what's going to happen is that person is not going to do things for you. It is
Correct.
guidance, right? If you're trying to get a job somewhere, that's not what you get mentorship for.
Correct.
It's not transactional. It is for personal development. It is for growth. It is not for executing transactions necessarily, right? So it's got to be, and that's when I talk about being genuine, that's where that comes from. It's got to be for you personally. They've got to know you're ready to take some bullets.
Yeah.
You've got to ask for candor. You've got to ask for the truth. You got to ask for it. You got to expect that it's not going to be sugar coated, because it is for your personal growth, and you also have to take it.
Yeah.
The day you challenge it, you're pulling away from a mentor.
You remind me of my football coach. He's like, "Oh, this is what you want,"
which
all
makes
right.
Great mentors, right? A lot of mentorship happens at that age in sports, right? So you've got to know what you're signing up for, right? But once you wrap your head around that and you sign up for it and you participate and engage and you really allow yourself to embrace it, your life will change. Absolutely change.
I've seen your life change. You've had some very significant things. And one thing I would like you to talk about, when you were on that road as an entrepreneur, and I think you're still on that road, and how that you've taken all your experiences that you've gained and looked at yourself, and you've done that self-assessment, and that you have this big well of opportunity that you're looking into and trying to take advantage of. Can you just walk us through those experiences as an entrepreneur, and how, knowing yourself, your personal brand, how you traversed those worlds and where you're at now?
So when you talk about this big well of opportunity, how you manage that, it's one of those things where, as an entrepreneur, personally, I found myself seeing an opportunity in every single thing around me, and that is really hard, because you can find yourself trying to do too many things and not really developing one of those things enough for it to be meaningful. And I want to be very clear. It doesn't mean you can't have multiple endeavors. What I do mean is you gotta establish at least one at a time, right? You have to know what you're doing. Don't be, jumping from one thing to the next. That's not going to get you anywhere. That doesn't create meaningful success. You have to see things through, right? And it doesn't mean you can't do multiple things at the same time, but you're probably not going to start that way.
Right.
You're going to have to try and fail many times to get good at knowing what not to do, and what not to do as a venture, but also for you, and then what not to do once you're in those particular situations, right? It's experience. It's pure experience. Now, mentorship, guidance, looking at other people and that's all well and good. That'll help you. But there are things that you have to go through that are emotional, and you have to feel those things. I can't tell you what those things will feel like enough for you to really get it. There are emotions you have to go through. You have to feel, your stomach drop when situations happen, and you will have to wonder, how am I going to get out of this? Or how am I going to get this done? You have to feel that. I can't tell you enough for you to get 100% of that. You have to be in that situation to feel everything against you, all of the odds against you, you have to feel how to muscle through that, how to fight that situation, because in a lot of cases, it's a mental fight.
Right.
So me telling you is just theoretical. You actually doing it is really the magic in that situation, right? So going back to that, today, I'm an executive with a healthcare company in South Florida, a national healthcare company, and it's a really fulfilling job that I have, to work in this space. Parallel to that, I have 4 concurrent businesses, and I'll talk about one of them because they're an umbrella. So I actually have a business, locally to me, um, that I'm owner to, but my parents run that, and that's something that I purchased for them, developed for them,
Nice.
to so that they can have something, that we have relative control over, right? So they have some security in that, and it's something that we offer. That's my dad's business in that sense. It's
Yep.
he's the expert there. I'm just facilitating that for him, but we do spend a lot of time in that. I also have, what's called the Spark Company. The Spark Company that's my baby. That is, my motivation, my business coaching and personal development, career development company. As you know, I have my own podcast there called Do Something, accommodating YouTube channel. And we do some really cool things there. That's my outlet for what my passion really is, helping people develop and realize their best self. And so, that's a story in itself, which we won't get into today, but that is what I see as, a an umbrella for portfolio that I've started to develop, all with the same theme of helping people, right? Because at the end, if you go back to what I said earlier, when you do things, I believe when you do things right and right by people, that good things are going to come to you, right? Said differently, you're going to make money. You're going to make a lot of money, right? That doesn't mean that you can't do bad things and still make money. It's just temporary and it's unsustainable. Personally, with my philosophy and my beliefs, you do good things and good things will follow, right? And so I created the Spark Company with my wife and my 2 sons, who are very instrumental in that. And it was largely intended to show them as an example, my kids as an example, that you don't have to be confined to the conventions of the world today, right? And you can think outside the box. And this is not only you can do it, but this is how you do it. And the Spark Company was a vehicle that we created to show, not just tell. And so subsidiaries of those, I have this is just fun for me. I do luxury watch trading. So I do a lot of high-end watches that are assets and appreciating value, some really cool stuff. It's actually a really huge industry that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, you told me about that. I was intrigued.
You think with Apple watches today, nobody wants to wear a watch, or smartphones, or nobody wears a watch anymore. I'll tell you, it's a really lucrative business, and it's fun because I just love timepieces, and that's one of the things I do. So that's Tsc Timepieces, the Spark Company Timepieces. Then I also have Tsc Financial Services, which is the Spark Company Financial Services. That is one of those things that's very near to my heart because it is also a form of helping people, right? And it's a multifaceted business that's actually growing very, very fast and servicing. It's completely an underserved market, where we focus on life insurance and annuities, but educating folks on options that they never thought was available. I mean, financial strategies and retirement planning and things that the average person can afford, and really change the trajectory of their life with simple products that, it's just information and financial literacy.
Financial literacy. You just talked about that. And
that's what it comes to.
Huge need.
And as I see myself partially as an educator, and that's what that business is about, is education to middle class and such that really lacks financial literacy, teaching people, hey, this is how. I'm not by any means a financial certified or financial advisor or anything like that. I'm state licensed life insurance agent for life insurance and annuities, and I educate on those options and really empower people to make decisions that I personally didn't get anywhere else. And I take that very personally. I think like, man, I'm a smart guy. Nobody told me this stuff. That's not cool. So I'm on a mission to share this information with people, and what they do with it is up to them, but very empowering information that really can change our community, quite frankly. And so those are my entrepreneurial endeavors so far. And like I said, it's a portfolio that I'm building because I love helping people. I love seeing people grow. And these are vehicles that I get to do that with. Right. And then, obviously with my job as an executive, that, being in healthcare and end of life care, that's just something that is very fulfilling for me. So I get to, I have the good fortune of getting to work in a space that is really fulfilling, and I get to do, use my businesses as outlets for my personal passions, which is also very fulfilling. So I'm a very lucky person today, as we speak.
Without question.
Right?
Again, your story is fascinating, and I love the fact that you know yourself. You know what you're good at.
Yep.
And you lead with your brand. Your brand is people. People
Right.
are my brand, and this is how in all those other aspects, your skill sets, are just enablements. How
Right.
that I can enhance the lives of others in your circle.
Yep. One of the coolest things about this, and I'll go back to the mentor-mentee situation, as I educate and I help and I develop or be an instrument to those things, and if you'll hear the resemblance to my earlier years in my story, the evolution of me as a person is challenged, right? And so I can't give you advice. I can't tell you to do something if I'm not already doing it myself. I can't. Somebody could. I can't do that, right? So when I give guidance, or I talk about things on my podcast, or we have conversations, it's coming from a place that I've personally experienced or I'm working on, but it's always from a place that I speak from me and my experience. It's not theoretical. It's not from a book. And what that does is it doesn't mean that I know and I've experienced everything, but I continue to invest in
No,
myself.
you speak from your experience, and that's what resonates with people, because you've got to have that emotional component, and that's the story. That's the difference between reading something and then having someone tell you their experience. The experience has the power in it. I can't say I'm the end all be all of all personal branding. Of course not. I can only say from my experience and what it's done for me personally, I can definitely tell that story. And I love the fact that others, and I get that feedback from my network. Grant, I love what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Can you even show me what you are doing? So I felt compelled to not just talk about what my own particular story when it comes to personal branding. I wanted to make it tell the stories of others, because I see you out in the world. You've got a fantastic story. I know there are people out there that need to hear this to move them to that next level.
Right. And moving to the next level. So that's a really good point. Moving to the next level is just moving to the next level. But then what? Right. And so for me, from my perspective, is that it's that constant pursuit of the next level personally, because I can't tell you to get to the next level if I don't know what the next level is like. So I'm always investing in myself, my mindset, personally developing. I'm always literally trying to be better tomorrow than what I am today, and better than what I was yesterday. And that is something that is conscious.
Yes.
It is every day I do something, whether it's a new practice, reading something, putting myself in a position to flex a muscle that I probably haven't used in a while, doing something progressive. And I think that is capability we all have within our reach, and we could do a lot better with that.
Well, you said it right. When I was growing up, okay, you had 3, maybe 4 television stations.
Right.
You had 2, maybe 3 radio stations that you may have tuned into. You had encyclopedias. We are in the information age.
Right.
You can tune in or have your own programming. Here we are today,
Mhm.
basically podcasting. What is podcasting? Is actually radio.
Right.
And then we're doing radio and television right now. That would have been almost impossible, right? This thing 20 years ago. So it's up to the individual now to tune in to the programming that's going to benefit them. You don't have to sit there and watch the 6 o'clock news, and that's the only world that's being told.
Yep.
You have to take it upon yourself to get other points of view, to get the education that you want.
Right.
Right. You don't have to wait, forever, to see this great, the series or whatnot to take you to that next level. So I really appreciate the digital age in that respect. I tell people all the time, I'm not a millennial, but I feel now, especially in my career, it's so much easier. I was like, wow, it's so much easier. Before, how would I know all the different, executives in a particular company that it would be almost impossible to get that kind of knowledge, unless you started really digging into a 10K or something like that, and you still don't really know the backgrounds and that. Now it's so much easier. LinkedIn's you got it in a snap. That's just one formula. So if you want to learn about something like personal branding, wow, I can pop that into Spotify, get a bunch of podcasts, right? I can pop it into YouTube, get a lot of information. You got so much how-to information. But going back to your earlier point, still, you have to have the experience yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the telling point. How is it going to work for you? Is only one way to find out, and that's to do it.
And you just said it, right? So there's two situations we can evaluate here. And we've heard many variations of this. There are people who let life happen, and then there are people who live life, right? And the difference between those two comes down to really action, right? And so my podcast called Do Something speaks directly to that. What I just talked about, every single day, there's some sort of action that puts you in this progressive form. It's the same thing. Action is the key, right? But to your example, you can turn on the TV and consume whatever the TV gives you, or you can go get what you want, because it's all out there.
Yeah.
It's all out there, right? You can choose what you participate in. You can let it come to you, or you can go get it. The people that will realize, any form of success are the ones that go and get it themselves, because nothing's going to get handed to you. Nothing's going to fall into your lap. I don't believe in luck.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in luck.
Create your own luck.
Go make it happen yourself.
A lot quicker.
Right. And I say, you just got to boil it down to two words: do something, because doing something is better than doing nothing. So anything you do is going to give you purpose and direction. You choose what you do and make sure it aligns with your purpose and direction. Coming back to my point of knowing where you are and where you want to go.
Man, that's sage advice. We're going to conclude here. It's been a wonderful session with you, Naresh.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I also want to make sure that the audience knows how to get in contact with you if they want to tune into your podcast and what you're doing in your entrepreneurial pursuits. Please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my company is called the Spark Company. I'm on, my podcast is published everywhere podcasts can be heard. YouTube channel, aptly named the same. I'm all over social media in that sense as well. So I'm really easy to find. If you go looking for me, you'll definitely find me.
Excellent. Well, go find Naresh. Take some of his advice. This has been another episode brought to you by 5-Star BDM. And we want to welcome you to next week's episode, which we will also have another special guest. So thanks very much for following the brand.